Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Opinionated Lushes, Books and Booze, a series where we invite on indie authors where they can read a little bit about where they can read a little bit of their book and talk about the writing process. I'm going to pass it to Dawn to let us know this week's author.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to our last episode of season 3, Books and Booze. And tonight we have Briar Belmont. Hey Briar, how are you?
Hi. I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. So you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how many animals you have, what's their names?
All right. Well, I'm Briar Belmont. I'm from southern Minnesota. Born and raised here, still live here. And I have 4 cats and 1 dog. My cats are Gremlin, Phantom, Ember, and Sage. They're all menaces who share one brain cell. I didn't adopt any of them. They just showed up. And and then I have 1 dog. She's a Great Pyrenees, and her name is Clover.
Great Pyrenees.
Yes.
If you couldn't guess, Sonia has a couple of those.
I have 4.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You must have to vacuum your house like every
twice
2
a day.
hours.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
But yeah, her name is Clover. She's like 9 now, so she's getting up there, but she's still a spunky little girl. So
Yeah.
Aw, that's so
They're my
cute.
favorite. Yeah,
they are the best dogs. Despite the hair tumbleweeds, they're the best dogs.
We call them seeds. Whenever one clump falls off them, we're like, oh, that's like a rocket seed, or that's like a puddle seed. Just because like they don't come off like in little pieces of hair. It's like clumps.
Yeah, they like collect in the corners.
Yeah.
So, do you want to tell us a little bit about the book you'll be reading for us today?
Yeah, so it's my debut pirate romance called Demon of the Deep. Cover. It is a rivals to lovers romance following 2 rival pirate captains who finally meet face to face and then have a oh no, he's hot moment. It is very spicy. 40% of the chapters have some sort of spice in them.
I love that.
Because it also follows a couple of their crew members coupling up as well. So multi-point of view, third person past, if that matters.
Not to me, really, but
I think that's a good ratio. 40 to 60 spice level.
40% spice, 60% piracy.
The perfect book.
I love pirates.
Sonia, you want to tell us our drink words for tonight?
Yes. So every time you hear Captain, Demon, or Hands, you drink.
Woohoo. All right. And whenever you're ready, Blair, we are going to mute our mics and start drinking.
Okay, so I'm reading the second half of chapter 1 and part of chapter 2. Up until this point, they have attacked each other, essentially, and are about to meet face to face. The 2 captains stared at each other for a moment, the only sounds the crackling of flames and the rush of waves. The demon cocked his head in question, and Rowan felt an inexplicable tug behind his navel. He stepped away from the wheel, trusting that one of his crew members would take hold of it in his absence, and strode toward the center of the ship. The demon matched his pace. Rowan collected Logan on his way, and soon found himself standing at the rail between 2 cannons, gazing up at the Kraken as the 2 ships maneuvered closer until Rowan could almost have spit onto the Kraken's deck from his position at the rail. Fox definitely could have. In fact, Fox dropped down from the rigging right beside Rowan and looked like he was working up a mouthful to try. Logan stopped him with a calm hand on his arm and a minute shake of his head. The 2 crews were hushed, staring at each other across the gap of blue water. Behind them, the wounded were being helped by their comrades, and the fire in the Siren's sails was almost extinguished. Sensing that the danger was over, Nephili swooped down to settle onto the rail of the quarterdeck. The demon stood calm as ever at the rail opposite. I'm sorry, my Discord notifications for some reason are going off. Can I pause for a second? I thought I muted
That's
them.
okay.
I thought I muted them. Okay. Hopefully they're good now. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. The demon stood calm as ever at the rail opposite. His eyes raked over the siren song below him and once again lit on Rowan. The ghost hawk, he said Rowan's alias evenly, raising one manicured eyebrow. You don't usually stray so far from the coasts. When I realized it was you, I half expected you to live up to your name and disappear. There was an insult in his tone, but all Rowan felt was the thrill of satisfaction that the Deepwater demon knew him. And yet now that he got a closer look at the man himself, he frowned. The demon wasn't demonic at all. He was handsome. The Deepwater demon was dressed immaculately in a long cream coat with stitching in red and gold, a wide leather belt accentuating his trim waist. The tops of long black boots with brass spurs met the hem of his jacket. He still held the rifle over his shoulder, an ornate saber strapped to his hip. His alabaster face was angular, with onyx hair and deep black eyes that sparkled with the reflection of the sun on the waves. This was a man who enjoyed finer things, a man who'd become a pirate for riches and fame and had achieved both. But good looks on top of that? Rowan was almost offended. Why are you out here, Hawk? Rowan smiled pleasantly, as if this bastard didn't already know the answer. He'd been driving Rowan out of his territory all summer. I'm sure it's no concern of yours, considering you abandoned this territory to invade mine. A slight smile tugged at the corner of the demon's lush lips. It wasn't my intention to offend you, but since you're here, we might as well negotiate your surrender, Rowan interrupted him. The demon's laugh was melodic, with a slight wheeze at the end, and a ripple of shock passed through the Kraken's crew. From the stories Rowan had heard, their victims were usually too terrified to do anything but grovel and beg for their lives. But Rowan got the sense that they were just as shocked by their captain's laugh as they were by Rowan's audacity. The demon stepped gracefully up onto the rail of the Kraken's fury, and Rowan realized two ships had drifted very close indeed. If you will allow me to board, the demon said quietly, in a conspiratorial tone just for them, we can have a nice discussion about who will be surrendering to whom. Rowan nodded his assent. The demon handed his gun into the waiting hands of a crew member, then dropped lightly down onto the deck of the Siren Song. He landed as if stepping from a stage, graceful and effortless. Captain, a crew member called over the gap. The demon spared a glance back over his shoulder, to which the man raised his eyebrows. He was a white man of average height and build, but with an intensity in his deep-set eyes that said he was not to be messed with. The demon turned back to Rowan. My first mate seems to think I'm too reckless, he said, a hint of mirth in his twinkly eyes. Rowan had no doubt that even alone, this man was fully capable of murdering his way out of a bad situation, barehanded if he had to. Will you allow me some company? He was being annoyingly polite. Rowan nodded. 2. With this, the first mate signaled to another man, an enforcer by the looks of his muscle-bound frame and sharp jaw. They boarded as well. Search them, Rowan commanded. His crew descended on the trio, patting them down and confiscating weapons. I will allow 1 knife each, in accordance with the parley code. His eyes met the demon's and found the man already looking at him, unbothered by the hands digging through his clothes for hidden weapons. A slight shiver ran down Rowan's spine. Not fear exactly, but the sense one got in open water when something big and dangerous lurked just beneath the surface. They parlayed in the captain's quarters, luxurious and comfortable by Rowan's standards, but the demon's gaze swept the room, unimpressed by the modest size, Rowan's unmade bed against the far wall, and the shelves packed with trinkets, weapons, and books. The first mates accompanied them, leaving Fox and the demon's enforcer in the hall to guard the door. Rowan took a seat next to the table at the center of the room, and the demon sat across from him without being invited. Long legs crossed, spurs glinting in the light from the windows. They drew their knives at the same instant, stabbing them into the scarred wood of the table between them. The demon's knife, intricate, beautiful, deadly, with a carved ebony handle and pommel inlaid with gems. Rowan's knife, well made, plain, and serviceable. Their hands stayed on the hilts of their blades for a moment, and Rowan noticed a knucklebone tattoo peeking out from behind the ring on the demon's right middle finger, indicating he'd survived a shipwreck. Rowan had a feeling the demon wouldn't be easy to kill, but then again, neither was he. I think some refreshments are in order, Rowan said, not taking his eyes off the demon. They both released their grips on their knives and sat back. I am a bit parched, the demon agreed. Too much smoke. Logan had a quiet word with the men outside the door. When the wine arrived, Logan poured 2 glasses. The deep red of the liquid sloshing in the glass reminded Rowan of blood. The demon waited for Rowan to drink before sipping from his own cup. Rowan held back a smile, secretly pleased he'd kept a few bottles from the crate they'd stolen off a merchant ship a few months back. The demon twirled the stem of the glass between his fingers, seeming content. It seemed neither of them quite knew how to begin. Rowan took a bracing gulp of wine, then set his cup back on the table, leaning forward to glare at the demon. So about your surrender. The demon's eyes scythed up, cutting him off. A bit audacious to assume I'd surrender to a man whose name I don't even know, he said coolly. Annoyance stirred again in Rowan's chest. They were here to negotiate, weren't they? Was this man just going to sit here drinking Rowan's expensive wine all day? Why would you need to know my name? Rowan asked. I like to know who I'm dealing with. Rowan frowned. A name can't tell you who I am. The demon's gaze flicked to the side where the first mates were watching their captains warily. Shall we have this conversation privately? He said when Logan tensed, he added, I have no intention of harming your precious ghost hawk. You have my word on that. Logan did not look comforted. Rowan knew it was a bad idea to face an enemy with no backup. Worse, that it was an enemy such as this. But a wild recklessness had overtaken his body, an intense desire to see what the legendary captain would do or say next. All sense of logic and self-preservation had fled, and the demon saw the resolve in his expression. Mr. Hacken, the demon looked to his first mate, step out into the hall, will you? We'll be fine. Giving his captain a skeptical look, Hacken left the room, and after a few reassuring words from Rowan, Logan followed. The demon sipped his wine again, wiping away a stray droplet from the corner of his lip with his thumb. Rowan simply watched him, waiting to see what he would do. The demon stood and began to slowly wander the room, examining its contents as if they were mildly fascinating. Rowan stayed seated, determined to appear unbothered and unaffected. He had a feeling this mad man would pounce at the first sign of weakness. Now that we're alone, I'd like to know your name. The demon's back was to Rowan, examining his meager shelf of books. Why? Rowan scoffed. Will it make it easier to give up? That remains to be seen. I'm just curious about you. The demon ran a finger down the spine of a book. Silent thrill ran through Rowan's body, He struggled to keep his voice calm. Me? What do you have to be curious about? The demon finally turned and looked at him again. I've heard stories, rumors, and you've been quite a nuisance as of late. He walked slowly back toward the table. I want to know more. I want to know the truth. He reached the table and settled one hip onto the top, leaning down to look more closely at Rowan's reddening face. I'm the nuisance? Rowan scoffed, trying to keep a cool head. You're the one who invaded my territory first. If anyone's a nuisance here, it's you. I came out here to land a juicy prize, yet here you are instead. The demon seemed amused by this. Am I not juicy enough for the ghost talk? You wound me. He placed a delicate hand over his own heart, as if Rowan had snatched one of the knives from the table and driven it into his chest. Rowan glowered at him, and the demon's eyes narrowed in return. You are out here because I drove you out. I provoked you to sail into these deep waters because I want to see the man behind the ghost. Rowan just stared at him, wide-eyed, barely clinging to the nonchalance he'd tried so hard to cultivate. And all this time, Rowan had thought himself clever, invading the demon's territory in retaliation. But that was what the demon had wanted all along, so he could spring a much larger trap. And what do you see? He smiled, leaning fractionally closer, his large hand moving from his chest to brace on the table. So close to their knives, yet Rowan didn't move. Tell me your name. You first. The demon blinked, as if he hadn't expected that. Eve, the demon said after a moment. Eve Francois Le Sauvage. That's a lot of names for a pirate. It is, and all of them are false, but the first one. A chuckle bubbled up between Rowan's lips. What Rowan had said was right. One could not know the truth of a man simply by knowing his name. Yet the name Eve had chosen for himself spoke of a desire for luxury, for greatness. It spoke of a man hungry to escape a lowly past. So, Eve it is then. Now it's your turn. Rowan Fane, he answered. They did not shake hands. Now, shall we negotiate our truce? Eve asked. He seemed satisfied by the name somehow, as if knowing it put him at ease. I thought this was a surrender, Rowan countered, and you didn't answer my question. Then I'll answer both. I do not surrender, but I'm willing to offer very reasonable terms that have us both surviving this encounter. You saw our crews, the state of our ships. If this goes on. He shook his head, redirecting his focus. The smell of blood and burning sails still clung to them. I offer this because I see a spark in you that will burn us both to the ground. I have you outgunned, and you have me outmaneuvered. Given the chance, we would obliterate each other. All the while, he'd been leaning nearer and nearer to Rowan, but Rowan hadn't moved a muscle, mesmerized by the other man's words. Eve reached across the short distance between them and wiped a smear of ash from Rowan's jaw. His touch was a lightning bolt that seared through Rowan's nerves, right down to his groin. He leapt to his feet, the wooden chair toppling to the floor behind him. Logan and Hacken burst into the room. Cap, Logan started. It's fine, Rowan almost snarled, embarrassed to be caught, having a conversation? Eve waved the first mates away, and after more strained reassurances from Rowan, they reluctantly retreated back into the hall. I didn't mean to startle you, Eve said almost poutingly. You didn't. Eve's sharp gaze traveled down his body slowly. I see that. Color rose to Rowan's cheeks. It's not... But Eve slid from the table and stalked toward him, and Rowan couldn't help but stumble away until his back bumped against the boards of the wall. Eve's tall body between him and the door. How had he let himself get into this position? I'm curious, Eve murmured. I want to know what makes you tick. He smirked as Rowan squirmed under his gaze. Or what makes you purr. Rowan pushed him hard in the chest, causing him to stumble back a step. He didn't know why he'd done it, only that this feeling building in his body was overwhelming and he needed to move, to do something with this energy. He regretted it as soon as he'd done it, feeling Eve's absence like dropping into the bowl between stormy waves. But the Deepwater Demon was back before him in a second, strong fingers pressing deep into Rowan's throat. I'm not into force, Eve snarled, bared teeth just inches from Rowan's nose. But I won't be disrespected. His sparkly eyes now burned with a deadly fire, and Rowan felt himself grow harder even as he struggled to breathe around the strong hand. He leaned his head back against the wall, keeping his eyes on Eve's face. He saw the moment Eve felt Rowan's hardness against his thigh, the violent fire in his dark eyes reduced to a smolder. His fingers eased until there was only a slight pressure against Rowan's neck. So, that's how it is, Eve purred, his body pressing closer, examining Rowan's face for answers. Rowan's breath hitched as he felt Eve's own hard length against his hip. A slow, feral smile spread across Eve's full lips. Do you know the other reason they call me the Deepwater Demon? Eve murmured, his lips brushing Rowan's ear. No, Rowan gasped, anticipation coiling through his chest. You're about to find out. Okay.
I love the ending. You're about to find out.
So chapter 2 is very spicy. I'm not sure if you want me to read it or not, but I will.
It's up to you. It's
Yeah,
all
like,
this is your interview. Like, oh, Jessica just put like an
Jessica puts the
18 plus.
18 plus.
Well, I guess I have to now.
That's right. Now you have to. It's a rule.
We have it for safety reasons, you know?
All right. Something finally snapped. Rowan wrenched Eve around by his hair, crushing their lips together in a hard kiss. Eve deepened it. His tongue tasted heady with wine. And Rowan moaned quietly as Eve's hands slipped beneath his coat. Then the coat crumpled at their feet, and Rowan's fingers curled into Eve's hair again, demanding and insistent. Their kissing grew more frantic. Eve grabbed Rowan's waist, grinding their hips together. Rowan was breathless, already dizzy with sensation. They broke apart for a moment to catch their breath. Eve's hair and clothes were uncharacteristically rumpled. He grinned, looking nothing like the cool-headed captain that had stood unfazed as his ship was shot to pieces around him. Rowan had done that. A sudden possessiveness overtook him, a need to devour every inch of this beautiful man, a need to make it so the Deepwater Demon would never forget him. He grabbed the front of the black leather belt, pulling their bodies back together. I'll ruin you, he rasped, teeth catching the shell of Eve's ear. Eve flashed him another dazzling smile. We'll see. Then Eve was on his knees, ripping Rowan's belt from his waist and tossing it aside. He freed Rowan's cock from his pants, stroking it. Rowan leaned his head back against the wall, still keeping his gaze on Eve's as the man licked up the length of his cock. His sparkly eyes never left Rowan's face. A shiver ran through Rowan's body as Eve continued teasing with his long tongue. Eve stopped after a moment, looking up at Rowan, eyebrows raised, waiting. Please, Rowan stuttered. He moaned as his cock penetrated through Eve's plump lips, tongue swirling expertly around the shaft. Rowan felt the slightest resistance and expected progress to stop, but Eve kept going until his nose was nestled in the blonde curls of Rowan's pubic hair. Eve swallowed, his throat tightening deliciously around Rowan's cock. Eve, the name left his mouth before he could stop it, but he didn't care how desperate it made him sound. Eve's mouth retreated until only the tip remained inside. Rowan's fingers fisted in his hair, but Eve pushed his hips back firmly against the wall before he could do anything. Rowan's pants and boots had come off at some point. He didn't know when. Eve deliberately locked eyes with Rowan as he took him back in, agonizingly, deliciously, slowly, his tongue hitting all the right places. It felt longer than it had any right to be, until Rowan's cock was deep in his throat again. Then he began in earnest, sucking and licking till Rowan felt like he would go mad if he couldn't move. His hips bucked forward, fucking into Eve's mouth, his hand securing Eve's head in place. His mind was so full of sensation of Eve's luscious mouth around him that he didn't even notice Eve's hand wandering until one finger brushed his opening. He shivered. The demon locked eyes with him again, releasing his cock with a flick of the tongue. I told you, I don't surrender, Eve said, the fire back in his eyes. It has to be you. On his knees, with Rowan's dick in his mouth, he certainly looked like he was surrendering. But Rowan didn't want this to end. He'd do anything to have the Deepwater Demon. It had been a long time since he'd slept with anyone, and he'd only ever topped. Eve was on his feet, one hand palming Rowan's wet cock, the other caressing his cheek. He looked down at Rowan with half-lidded, lust-filled eyes. I can't promise gentleness, he murmured, but you will beg for more. Rowan kissed him fiercely in response, releasing the shiny buckles of Eve's belt with quick fingers. He undressed Eve's until he was standing there in nothing but his trousers, all hard muscle and flawless skin, except for an old bullet wound over his heart. Still kissing, Eve ripped Rowan's shirt down the front, then wrenched him away from the wall to throw him onto the bed. He landed sprawled on his back and looked up to see Eve's shedding his remaining clothing, his cock springing free. Fuck, he was in for it. That thing was enormous. Eve pounced on him, devouring his mouth in a crushing kiss. Rowan reached down to stroke him, his hand feeling tiny in comparison. A small spark of anxiety flickered in his belly. There and then gone, replaced by building pleasure as Eve ground against him, the friction of their cocks together, making both of them moan. Then Eve stood, produced a vial of something from the folds of his discarded coat, and returned to the bed. A faint coconut smell filled the room as he uncorked it. Spread your legs. Rowan did as he was told, and Eve knelt between them. He removed his rings from one hand and spread the sweet-smelling liquid over his fingers. His lips found the tip of Rowan's throbbing erection, and he bobbed his head down, slowly at first, building Rowan's anticipation. Then he went deep, eliciting a moan as his fingers breached Rowan's entrance, the knucklebone tattoo disappearing inside of him. It hurt, but Rowan couldn't bring himself to care. Eve hummed, his throat vibrating around Rowan's aching cock. Rowan's back arched slightly as Eve's long fingers began to loosen him, the strange sensation warred with tingling pleasure. The wave of fire built, and he almost couldn't take it anymore until Eve's fingers found a certain spot, and he saw stars. His back arched, and he came, hot liquid, gushing down Eve's throat. Eve wasted no time. He pounced, wiping a dribble of cum from his lip, just as he had done with the wine. He kissed Rowan deeply, tongue tasting of wine and salt, then drew Rowan's legs over his shoulders before Rowan could come down from his bliss and slammed into him. Rowan screamed as Eve plunged in up to the hilt, hitting his prostate and sending a shiver of intense pleasure and pain through his whole body. He was already getting hard again. There were many reasons to call him the Deepwater Demon. Eve withdrew slowly until just the tip was still in, then pounded back in, angling their bodies to reach even deeper. He set a punishing pace that left little room even to breathe. Rowan clutched onto his broad shoulders, scrabbling for purchase, something to ground him in the tsunami of sensation. Eve bent to kiss him almost tenderly, groaning into his mouth, then pressed a hand to his lower belly, crushing Rowan's guts around his cock to heighten their pleasure. Fuck, Rowan moaned. He said it so many times he lost count. The whole ship had probably heard them by now, but he didn't care one bit. Eve withdrew and flipped him over. Rowan found he didn't mind being manhandled either. His limbs felt like jellyfish. Eve ran a hand lightly up his spine under the ripped shirt, cock poised at Rowan's entrance. Rowan squirmed, feeling horribly empty, wanting more. Eve leaned close to his ear, wrenched his head back by his ashy blonde ponytail. Do you want it? He growled. Rowan bucked his hips back, trying to take matters into his own hands, or ass, so to speak. Eve stopped him, pulling his hair harder till his scalp tingled. Naughty, he tisked in disapproval. Rowan wasn't used to being scolded or giving up his power. He liked it. Answer my question. Yes. Yes, what? Tell me what you want. Please, Rowan whined. He could feel Eve's cock at his entrance. If he could just... Fuck me, he pleaded. I need you. I want your cock inside me. Eve penetrated him suddenly, pushing his head down onto the mattress at the same time and holding it there as he pounded mercilessly into him, abusing his prostate. Rowan tried to move his hips with Eve's rhythm, letting the friction build. His cock was dripping, throbbing, aching for another release. He felt the sting of Eve's fingernails digging into the meat of his ass, Eve's other hand still pressing the side of his head down into the mattress. His vision went fuzzy around the edges until a low growl brought him back to his senses. His gaze flicked back, seeing Eve's elegant face twisted in ecstasy. They locked eyes. Come for me, Rowan. The tsunami broke, crashing around him so hard that for a moment he felt like he may actually be drowning in the unparalleled pleasure. His second orgasm spurted onto the sheets below him, and he felt the hot rush of Eve's release filling him. Rowan, the taller man moaned. They collapsed into the bed, panting. Eve was still inside him, Rowan's head pillowed on his muscled arm. Eve tucked the other around Rowan's waist. Rowan's back was enveloped by Eve's still heaving chest, his thundering heartbeat reverberating through them. His ragged breath stirred Rowan's hair. Rowan's eyes fluttered closed, exhausted. He'd never felt so satisfied, nor so content. Eventually their breathing calmed, and Eve unseated himself from inside Rowan, allowing him to turn over so they were face to face. Eve planted a long, lingering kiss on Rowan's lips, stroking his sweat-soaked hair away. So, shall we negotiate our truce? Eve asked as their kiss broke apart. Rowan, still slightly shivering with aftershocks, had completely forgotten about their original purpose for meeting here. He opened and closed his mouth like a caught fish, unable to think of what to say. Did I fuck the thoughts right out of your brain? Eve laughed, his voice slightly hoarse from the abuse it had taken. I hope they come back soon. I liked them. What are your terms? Rowan managed to say, struggling to think business while they were naked, sticky, and cuddled together in his bed. I'm prepared to replace your burned sails and rigging, have one of my physicians attend your wounded, and, he eyed the shirt still clinging in tatters around Rowan's shoulders, I'll give you a nice new shirt from my own wardrobe. These were generous offers. Rowan waited for the other shoe to drop. If, Eve continued, pausing to pinch Rowan's chin between his fingers, bringing their faces so close their lips almost brushed. His shiny eyes became smoldering embers again. If I can see you again. Somehow, Rowan wasn't expecting that, and for a moment he was stunned speechless. The Deepwater Demon had just given him the best sex of his life, so, yes. Their deal was sealed with another languid kiss. The end.
God damn.
Okay. I have a question. Not that I have a problem with it, but why pirates? Like, how did that come about?
I don't really know. So this book kind of started out, I was uninspired by the project I was working on at the time. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to write some silly, smutty pirate nonsense. And then it kind of just snowballed from there. Every time I try to write something silly and fun for my own shits and giggles, my brain's like, but what about the plot? And then, yeah.
That's oh damn. Like, okay. I don't know if I've said this before, but I'm definitely gonna say it now. There is something extra spicy about male. Like, it trumps female. It even trumps like sapphic with female. Though that's even still hotter than straight. I don't care.
Is it
But
the
like
two dicks?
male,
maybe?
male.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
like
it-
chocolate and chocolate, 2 chocolates, you know.
It's just damn. It's
you
just,
have
it's always the best.
you have penis envy, is what Sigmund Freud would say.
Maybe. I don't know, but
because we don't know. We only hear about how great penises are. We don't know.
I'm just saying. I'm like, damn. It's just extra spicy. I don't know. I like it.
There's something fun about being the penetrator over like the penetratee. You know what I
Interesting
I
to
mean?
writing from that point of view, having no real life experience of it. I asked my husband and some of my male writer friends, like, could you describe some things for me, please?
research.
It's good to get their perspective though, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what a good writer does. Like you're like, oh, like I don't have this experience. Please share with me so I can actually write
Some
it.
of them weren't super helpful, but it was enough.
Yeah.
I used my imagination for the rest.
Fill in the blanks. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what they get. They should have given you more information then.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fine.
Because
I don't want to read another male book. I'm over men's point of views.
Yeah.
So you know what? Women need to write more men, actually.
Women write men better than men write women. Like it's just known.
I think women write men better than men write men.
Yeah,
Like,
women write better.
Women write better.
I will say the caveat to that is women write better men than straight men write men.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, straight men don't know how to write anything.
Like any like romantic scenes, it's always like I don't know, like
Not romantic.
there's no romance. It's just like straight to like there's no like bonding. Like even though that was like a quick like bam bam thank you ma'am, there was still like the connection they had,
The
right?
The tension.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like when straight men write sex scenes, it's always like bam,
I put it in her
cock out,
hole
done.
and I
yeah.
came. Bam.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, because one of them's a person and one of them's not in their situations. You know, romance objects. You know what I mean?
So
But go ahead.
oh no, you first. Go.
I was gonna say I do have there is going to be some sapphic action in book 2. So and there's also a threesome in this one too. 2 males and 1 female threesome.
The more
Not
the
of these
merrier.
characters, side characters.
I thought it was gonna be 3 males. I was like, oh my god, like yes.
What do we
my
do with all
editor-
these dicks? Yeah.
My editor almost had me take that point of view out, but then I was like, but what about the threesome? I have to keep it in.
Yeah,
You have
it's
to.
needed.
It's
Yeah,
important.
for research.
Yeah.
For science.
For science. When doing this, like writing this novel, what character development was your favorite?
Oh, I don't know. There's not much character development to do when 40% of it is smut. There's character development within the smut, but the main couple do have quite the emotional journey in that both of them are very delusional and think that like they don't love each other. Whereas everybody, their crews are like, what are you guys talking about?
You're obviously in love.
So their character arc in like finding the equilibrium of their relationship was very fun to write. And then there's also a side character named Fox. He is the chaotic sunshine character with some emotional baggage. So his character arc was really fun to write too.
Nice. So pirates. What research do you do to like get pirates? Like I have no idea of anything about pirates.
I did. It's shockingly hard to find like good info about like old ships. without like having scholarly access to things. So I do have a writer friend whose sister sails tall ships for a living. So I've tapped into that resource quite heavily. And then I also I did do a lot of research with like ships and like swords and stuff. It's not historically accurate because it's in a fantasy world. Um, but in regards to the ships, my philosophy is be vague enough that no one can tell me I'm wrong, but specific enough that it seems like I know what I'm talking about.
I love this bullshit theory. I love it.
Fake
I was
it
an
till you
English
make
major in
it.
college, so I'm good at bullshitting things. I research just enough for what I need to say, and then go somewhere
Fill in
else.
blanks. Yeah.
No, that's a smart way to write something you only vaguely know about. Because yeah, now coming to think about it, I don't know a lot about boats or ships.
I mean,
Right?
I live in Minnesota.
Starboard.
I've been to the ocean like twice, maybe. So I did do a lot of. I went up to Lake Superior a lot, which is a small sea, freshwater sea, essentially, and just kind of like chilled and looked around and got inspiration from that. So um, that's the extent of my ocean research.
I used to be a Navy cadet, and like we learned all about boats and knots and all that bullshit. And I can't remember any of it now. And I think it's too like people are such when they're like, "Oh, this needs to be exactly like this." Like it's a fucking book. It's a story. Relax, you know.
Yeah. I mean, as long as it's internally consistent, especially
Yeah.
if it's a fantasy world, which I always do fantasy worlds because I can just make things up.
Right.
But like obviously these outfits are not period accurate or anything like that. Like I picked the year 1666 because I thought 666 would be funny because one of them is called the
characters,
demon.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
many choices were made for this on the basis of that would be funny.
Do it for the bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I always ask, are you a pantser or a plotter?
I'm a pantser with a side of plotting. I basically never really know what the book is about until like halfway through. And I also write out of order too. I don't write in chronological order. So like I'll usually write probably the first third and then like the ending and then fill in the middle bits. And by the time I'm partway through the filling in the middle bits, I have to make like a little outline or like I used to have like this whole wall behind me covered in like note cards that I could move around with like each of the scene descriptions on them.
That's smart.
So like yeah, mostly pantsing, partly plotting once I get to the find out phase. Like
after that
fucking around.
40%, then you have to figure out the 60%. Yeah.
Like this book, I fuck around for 40% and then I find out for 60%.
So I always ask this. Who is an author that you look up to or that you would love to meet one day?
Well, so in regards to like, I read a lot of fantasy. And one of my biggest inspirations that like got me into writing was Tamora Pierce. I even have like a poster of hers right in front of me on my wall right now. So she wrote like the Tortal series. There's like 3 or 4 series in that world. And like the Circle of Magic series, which I was obsessed with. My pen name, first name is named after one of her characters in that series. My by awakening character, essentially. So she was basically the person who got me into writing when I was like in middle school and high school. And then as far as like romance and smut goes, Amanda Mewison, who wrote The Last Courtesan of Olympus, she is actually also a Minnesota author. And I've met her a couple of times. But like I read The Last Courtesan of Olympus a year and a half, 2 years ago, and while this book, it was still in like the infancy stages, and I was like, oh, I could publish my book like Amanda did. So she was a huge inspiration for me in regards to like actually getting my career started and like making that decision. So yeah.
Nice.
For your art that you showed there, is there like, was there inspiration for the cover art? Like, is the artist somebody you know? Was it you?
No, I wish I could draw. Oh my gosh. But my artist is Maria Arteta. Her Instagram is marosar_art. And I found her because she did the cover of Prince of Endless Tides by Ben Alderson, which is a gay Little Mermaid retelling. And I really liked what she did for his covers. So I was like, that is what I want. So contacted her and got all that good stuff. She's also doing the other covers in the series as well. And then I did some like spicy promotional art too, that I hired another artist for and have prints of. That turned out like really amazing.
Cool. Okay, is there a genre you haven't written yet that you want to write?
I've written a lot. I've written a lot of fantasy. I've written a lot of like romance and erotica. I feel like maybe sci-fi, even though I don't think I'm smart enough to write it. It would be a lot of bullshitting.
That's fine. It's just science fantasy.
Yeah. And then also horror, which anybody who knows me will be like, what the hell are you talking about, Briar? You cannot write horror because you are the biggest scaredy cat in the world. But that's why I want to write it, because I'm scared of so many things.
That's amazing. No, you're literally like Jessica and Sonia like put together, because Jessica loves horror and then Sonia loves sci-fi. So like that would be like the ultimate for them both.
Yeah. I don't like consuming horror, but I think I might be decent at writing it. I actually wrote a short story recently that was like erotic horror, I guess you would call it.
Okay.
So that's like my first little dip into it.
Cool.
Yeah, I've read a couple of erotic horrors that are supposed to be dark romances, but I was like, no, this is not dark romance. This is erotic horror. Like, there's no romance in this whatsoever.
Right.
Is that what the difference is? Just the romance part? Okay.
Yeah. I think I read somewhere like romance has to have obviously romance, love at the center of the plot and have a happy ending or happy for now. And that erotica has to have like the character art is centered around like the sexual acts
and the horror part, like the scary part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like love can be sprinkled in, but it can't be like the main focus, whereas a dark romance, it's the main focus of like the development of the relationship. Whereas horror erotica is like literally just, it's like a horror movie, like just played out with like sex in the middle, like, you know?
Yeah,
like,
it's a horror movie with sex and body horror, essentially.
It's like Friday the 13th, you know, or whatever. It's literally that, but in a book, which we like. So
good to know. Good to clarify that.
Yeah. There was another question. Oh my goodness. And like I'm blanking. Oh, do you have any like routines that you do when you get into writing? Like, do you have to have a coffee or a water? Does it have to be a specific time of day? Do you have to listen to a certain song?
It's all chaos. I'm fairly sure that I'm borderline ADHD. Have not been diagnosed, but
I think we all are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really have a certain time of day, though I feel like if I could sleep in as late as I wanted, then I could stay up as late as I wanted, and I would have already finished writing my sequel.
ADHD math, obviously.
Yeah, I think my peak creative hours are like 9 p.m. to like 3 a.m., which is obviously not feasible for someone who has to work for a living.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, other than that, like I have a playlist for the vibes. Sometimes if I'm really like uninspired, I'll just like lay on my floor and play dramatic music super, super loud and just like in my brain think about words and plots and things. I also take a lot of inspiration from I have a hard time falling asleep sometimes. So I just lay there with my phone in my hand. I lay there, and if I think of a sentence, I'll write it.
I do that too. My notes are full of like quotes, I
Yeah.
call it. So like I have a notepad thing, and it's just quotes of random things I thought of that I got to now plug into my book whenever I do that.
Yeah. And honestly, some of the best lines come from that. Like some of it's trash, but some of my best lines I've thought up, when I was about to fall asleep.
Yeah, they say that's like the most creative time your brain is that point between like that's why like the term like this is where the magic's made and it's your bed. Like that's where that comes from. So
A lot of stuff I just like if I remember my dreams, I'll add it in. Or a lot of my notes turn out to be total trash though. Like
I always wake up in like the middle of the night and I can't go back to sleep. And that's when my brain is just like, hey, you're relaxed. Let's just kick into overdrive. And I'm like, no, brain, it is bedtime. We gotta get up in like 4 hours with our child. And brain's like, nah, listen, we got a script to write. And I'm like, what? And that's how it
like
happens.
every once in a while I'll wake up and look at my notes app and it'll just say like geraniums or something. And I'm like,
what the fuck was
this
that about?
may have been brilliant, but I didn't write enough of it down.
Like, don't forget. You forget.
Don't forget this random thing with no context.
Okay, so well, speaking of your writing process, how long on average does it take you to like say finish a book?
From start to finish, well, so I wrote the first like 40,000 words of Demon of the Deep in like a month. And then I didn't work on it again for like 5 months. And then finished it up by the end of the year because I started in January of 2023. So from beginning, first draft to like final edited, paid for editing draft, I think it was like a year and 3 months, minus like 5 months I took off in the middle to work on my serious projects. And then, but it's kind of a long book too. So
yeah,
for a romance. And then I'm way behind on my sequel currently because I took a detour to write a prequel, which I just announced this week.
Nice.
And the prequel took me like 3 months to write.
So it's like a novella?
Well, it's technically a full-length novel. It's 66,000 words.
Okay.
Which is short for me, but might be long for other people. So, it kind of just depends. Like I said, everything's kind of chaos with my process. Like I've gotten like a vague process down, but like then something comes along to screw it up. So
that's like everything in life though. It's just that's how it is.
Yeah. I mean, Dawn's been working on her books, and then something.
I'm on year 2, and I've only got like 20,000 words down. Like I don't know what I'm doing.
To be honest, like I think that's just the life of a pantser, because like I can't plot anything out. Like it will just be a total bore fest if I sit down and plot something out. I have to like let it develop, and time is a huge factor in that.
Yeah.
So.
Especially when like you have other things going on in life, right?
Right.
And then if life decides to like really screw you, then it sets you back. So I get that because like that's why I'm on year 2. I should have had this done a while ago, but like things just keep happening. It's just how it is.
When life screws you, write a sex scene. I feel like
Oh
that
my
should
God.
just.
When you get stuck, just plug in a sex scene.
There you go.
Sex scenes are like the hardest scenes to write, though.
Oh my God, yes. I wrote one.
Like-
I wrote one, and I'm like, does this make sense? And like I'm blushing at my own words, and I've read some stuff. I've watched some stuff. And like, but for me to put it out there, I'm like, oh, what do I do?
Right. Like, for me, the first draft never has like any internal thoughts for any of the characters. I have to go and add them in after. So the sex scenes are extra hard because they're just like, then his hand was here, and then they did this, and I have to like go back and be like, okay, what are the emotions? What am I doing here? Like, so they always take me so long to write because you have to perfectly weave together the actions and emotions, whereas like other scenes you can lean a little bit one way or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, do you guys have any more questions?
I'm good.
Well, I missed part of the question answering. So do you have like, who are you hoping is going to read this book besides everybody? Who do you really want to reach?
I don't really know. Like, I don't think this is a book that's like gonna change someone's life or anything. Maybe it'll give them a gay awakening. I don't know. Or a bi awakening, since like basically every character is bi. But like, I don't just people who want to have a good time and read about smutty pirates who occasionally crack jokes and do butt stuff.
Yeah.
Do butt stuff.
My husband won't even do butt stuff. So
Neither will mine.
I think they're just afraid of what they don't understand.
Exactly.
They
fear
usually
of
what
the
they're
butt
missing.
stuff. Like I like this.
Okay, have Kyle like write like I don't know, do a video. Kyle should do like a how to butt
How
stuff.
to butt stuff?
How to butt stuff.
How
by
to
Kyle Kilman.
Yeah.
No, my pen name is gonna be Kilman too because Sonia told me I should do that.
Yeah,
It's like
it's such a
we'd go
good
good with dark romance, right? Which is what
Yeah.
I'm writing.
That would
And
be good.
then like people are gonna be like, is Danya Kilman like married to Kyle Kilman who does butt stuff? Like, no, I
Say
don't
he's
want
your
that.
brother.
It's your brother from a different mother.
My brother does butt stuff.
He can use my last name.
Yeah, be Kyle Villeneuve, okay? Like,
Hey,
Yeah.
if we're all Kilmans, it can't be incest, okay?
That's right. Like everybody who lives in my town all has the same last name.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
You just cross fingers.
Like you're at least like you're starting off third cousin, and like if you like anything, like you just better hope you're
Gotta
not
Like,
second
how's
or
your
first.
DNA
chin?
test papers on the first date.
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of seeing if they go like get them an STD screen, they have to get a genetic screening.
Yeah.
yeah, like, did you bring your me in 23? Like, let's
Yeah.
swap.
Your ancestry.
Yeah.
Did we
Who's
pop
your
up on each
first
other's
10?
tree?
But yeah, the only people I don't want to read my book is my family.
Fair.
I debated for months about whether to even tell them I was publishing. So I mean, they know now, but I've strictly forbidden.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel
From
like that's
reading.
a good rule. Like if you're a stripper, you don't want your grandpa to come like
Yeah.
in like pervert row. You know,
Exactly.
like
Yeah, no, at least by third row, at least. Like, if you're
Yeah.
gonna come, Gramps, at least respect my boundaries, okay?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
like if you like just like listen to the like no, don't even listen to the audiobook because that'd be worse. Oh my god.
but yeah, like I showed them, I told them it was a spicy pirate romance and then didn't tell them anything else. And then I got super excited. I was on vacation with them because I got my first like cover art, like sketches. And I showed them, and like I don't think my mom realized that both of them were men for like 2 weeks. And like, I mean, Rowan's pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, look at that. But and then she had like a revelation, and then we never talked about it.
Does she know what spicy means?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think I used the word smutty when I told her about it. So.
Fair. I mean, like, you're telling them not to read it for their benefit.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's partially for my benefit also because they might put me in a mental institution, but
they just take
it's
your
mostly
book
for
to the
their
hospital. They're like,
Yeah.
evidence.
Our daughter is possessed by smutty demons.
Demons that are pirates.
And you're like, I
Big
wish.
Peg me.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Briar Belmont, for coming on our season finale of Books and Booze. If you want to use this time, if you want to use this time to plug any of your things or any projects coming up or all your links and social medias,
Oh yeah, so I'm mostly on Instagram, sometimes on TikTok, though TikTok is mostly memes these days for me. But under Briar_Belmont on both platforms. And then my prequel to Demon of the Deep is coming out later this year, probably the end of summer, maybe the beginning of fall. And then the sequel I'm hoping is going to come out next year if I can get my shit together. So but yeah, the prequel is called Undefined Tides. It's a collection of interwoven short stories about how each of the main cast of Demon of the Deep became a pirate. It started out with me writing a short story of Fox's backstory because I needed it for reference for a scene in Demon of the Deep. And then, like I said before, it just kind of spiraled into a book. So yeah, each of those characters has their own couple short stories in there. And I found it really, really fun to write. And it was the least amount of time to write a full book I've ever done. So
cool.
Awesome.
Well, yeah, thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, when your other books come out, let us know. We'd love to have you on again.
Yes,
Definitely
it would
will.
be great. And like, thank you again. Like, I know you can't see my face, but I've been smiling this whole episode.
Well, thank you all so much for listening to our final episode of season 3 of Books and Booze. If you are an indie author, feel free to email us at opinionatedlushes@gmail.com or go on our website and you can apply as a guest. And we'll reach out to you when we start casting, I don't know, guests for season 4.
Except for there is before you could do that, but our website's a little bit under construction. And that form is not available at the moment. So you'd have to
just email us.
Just email or social media. Yeah.
Let me do it again.
That's my bad. I don't even think I told you guys.
I didn't know, like, I knew some of it was under construction, but I didn't know the whole guest form was completely off, so. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to the finale of Books and Booze Season 3. If you are an indie author and you would like to be on a future episode of Books and Booze, email us at opinionatedlushes@gmail.com or contact us via some social media or contact Dawn at Danya Bookrex on TikTok and Instagram. And we will contact you when we start booking guests for Season 4. So yeah.
All right.
Thank you all so much. Thanks again, Briar, for coming on.
Thank you.
And we will see you all next time.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.